want to start by saying that your works as a creator in the digital space are very stunning. From how you tell the stories to how they're very unique and how yeah, each of them is masterpiece in its own rights. Can you tell us some highlights of how you began your journey as a creative and what you consider the most fulfilling part of this journey so far?
Okay. Thank you once again, everyone. I So my journey. I'm 27, so I started about, and I just plunged myself into books that my dad had this library of personal help books, so I just kind of piqued my interest in
Yeah.
those things. So I would read, and I was looking for. Then I was just reading, right? Then while reading, I just really realized that I had that peers like me on. I'll use my weekly stipend. My weekly stipend should be about probably $5 if it was in dollars then, right? I would use it, I'll save it up. We had this thing called cyber cafes. If you're used to cyber cafes in Nigeria, a place where you could just go get time, access the internet. So I would learn about coding. And that was the beginning for me. So I would post articles about self-help from my blog. So I basically started as a content creator, as a teen content creator. And while trying to publish articles without being able to hire a coder, I learned how to code myself. So I built my own platform called seasonlivejournal.com.ng. And in between that, I needed to learn design. I needed to design. So I couldn't hire a designer, right? So I started learning how to design myself. And so I just started picking up all these skills that I needed to thrive as a content creator. Do you get it? So went from posting blog posts to learning how to code, to learning how to design. And in 5 years, my article was like in many countries. I was speaking across campuses, even in the university. Eventually, I went to university the following year. I was 16 when I got to university in 2011. So I would speak on campuses. I was beginning to tell people how they could use tech like me to create change, because I was basically using my platform to inspire young people to be leaders in their community through my experiences, right? And so it became what started as just me trying to help myself kind of spiraled into me helping other persons, right?
Right.
So just to stay there for now, might be able to expand later. This was my origin. In whatever you see today started from that 15 years old boy who was trying to solve his own depression, anxiety, and got information, wanted to help other persons, and in between began to find more things about himself, explore those things, and began to develop them. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think it was a very interesting story.
Yeah.
What school you go to? What public house? School?
For secondary school.
Yes.
Yeah, I went to one in Badagry called Badagry Grammar School. Then I went to an extreme end in Ikorodu called Model College. Something like Model College Ikorodu.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it rings a bell. I think I've heard that before. All right. But Abraham Studio is one of your projects for the creatives. So can you tell us what created that vision for that platform and what you hope to achieve through it in the coming years?
Okay, so FA Studios. So when I was done with university, I had all these skill sets. Like I could design, I was good at program management, program development. I was running non-profits, and I knew I was going to get a job. So I just knew what I was going to do, and people started calling on me like, "Oh, you do these things that you do. You're creating platforms, you're inspiring young people, you're having conferences and training. We wanted to start helping us do this thing for my own business." So business people started reaching out to me, right? So I started offering my services through my first company called Abraham Ologundudu. But FO Studio came in later because it was the project interesting. Might take pictures of people, right? Just take pictures of people, in church, maybe on the street. I just like street stuff. And people were like, "Hey, your work is good. Why don't just put it somewhere?" Right. So that was how the platform started. Noticed not pictures from Nigeria, some in the UK. I just picture me some other things from me to just capture experiences and moments, and people saw it as a big deal. And I realized that I have a philosophy that most time we don't see ourselves as well as other people see us.
True.
And when I get feedback, true feedback from people, like, that is great. Even if it doesn't feel great to me, I take it seriously,
Yeah.
right? Because people don't just make up stuff, right? So,
Yeah. True that. True that.
so yeah, so for me, FA Studio is one of my platforms for really helping people bring the ideas to reality. Photography is just one point of view. The other side is design. I help a lot of leaders. When I mean leaders, people who have impact-driven ideas. I help them go from just wanting to run something and bringing it to reality. So from the branding to the content creation to executing to stakeholder management, I also really have that passion for really ensuring that if you have an idea that can bring change, I want to be that person that helps you pilot that project.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's been rewarding seeing people scale. I remember talking to my wife last week. I saw this friend of mine online called Sandra Jaja. She has this platform called Fem Power Africa. And I could remember when she started Fem Power, there's this day she called me very anxious. She was like, hey, mom, what do I need to do about this? I was like, calm down. Let's walk you through. So we designed the logo, we designed the brand, we did all those things. And she has won a lot of awards. I think she's going to do an MBA in the US, I know, all expense paid. And I could just see someone that I was part of their journey, 3-4 years ago, and it's so rewarding. That's just one out of many stories. So when you see FA Studio, any of my expressions, it's just me who loves to see change, help people want to create change, bring that change to reality.
Wow, very amazing. Thank you so much for that flashback and insight. So you have so many creative works. So can you remember the first one you did and what inspired it? The first creative piece you ever did?
That's one of the most difficult questions to answer, because if you look at if you look at my journey, it's been more of exploratory and evolution, right? I didn't start off want to be a designer. I didn't start off want to be a, do you get it? So I find it difficult to be able to pick this precise was pretty what I started with. But if someone's going to ask me any day, anytime, the work that I'm most proud of, it's not the current works I'm doing now. It's that first baby, that Season Life journal that I used to use my stipend. I see like the time my dad would come out as a teenager, I'd be like, don't you ever leave your computer, because I'm just trying to make sure that that particular font looked right. That particular color was okay. People could access the content, people could have good experience. And I will keep reiterating the code, trying to make it more responsive. And even though I no longer write on that platform, I make sure I renew that platform every year. That's 50 years down the line, I'll be like, guys, that was where I started from. Because it's my baby child. It's still online to now. If you go to Season Life, the website doesn't look as great right now because this is 2022
as
and things have evolved, right? But I just like to see where I started from. Like
awesome.
it's just incredible for me to know that out of nothing, I before I even got the PC I was using, I was basically using a phone called Nokia C1. I don't even was very familiar about Symbian phones.
Yeah,
like very small
Symbian phones and all that.
That was the phone I was using. Like sometimes I see my friends who are using they use phone like Sony Ericsson was very popular then. Motorola. I see them playing. I'm like, dude, do you know what you can do with that phone? I wish I really had your mobile device. But I'm proud of what I could do with that resource at that point in my life. And so if I'm going to ever refer back to any first work I've done, it should be Season Life Journal. It might not have been the most beautiful design, but it was an expression of me in a very tender age when I was trying to figure out my life on the world. And that made sense to people. I can't take that away from my journey. Yeah.
Very, 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 very well said. Thank you so much. So once again, we are grateful to have you on board this special issue with the team. Great celebration of inspiring men in the creative industry. Also to mark the 2022 International Men's Day. Understand that growing need to build a culture where men can express how they truly feel without like shedding tears, without feeling like, they are being looked upon down, in a way that they're not maybe strong enough. You need to create spaces where men can be themselves, be vulnerable with themselves, and with family and friends. So, can you share any quick tips how we could help normalize the mental health issues for both men and women in our age and time? Because it's one thing that's very topical these days. Men trying to be strong, trying to be brave, don't cry, don't be weak, don't be soft, you're a man, how they say it in the society. So what do you think are the
Yeah.
steps that we can take as a society at large to help stem this stereotypes per se and help women and men out? Yeah.
Okay. This is something very personal to me because I understand this a lot. Um, One of the things I think we need to start reminding men about first is that we are equally as human as women, right?
Yeah.
That's fundamental. And I believe, from my Christian, I believe God created every human being, and I believe that every feature in the human physique or makeup had a purpose. If God didn't want you to have tears, then why do you have a tear duct? For example, you probably maybe the
Right.
dudes will be without tear ducts or something. Only ladies have tear
Yeah.
ducts, and guys are like, okay, you guys can you do well. The fact that it is there means I serve a purpose, right?
True.
So
Hard guy.
and
Hard
so
guy.
the idea that men shouldn't cry is
Yeah.
actually counterproductive as to the physical features of a man that women also have, which, so why am I saying that is that if it is there, it has a reason. So I think men need to begin to rethink how they see themselves first, right? It's easy for you to want society to do anything for you, but I think the first place to begin any work is with ourselves. So
Yeah.
individuals need to begin to rethink the fact that they're humans, and humans have certain features. One of them is emotions, right? And if you have emotions, it needs to be expressed, right? And we all know that unexpressed emotions have huge harm in the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're
Yeah.
hungry, if you're hungry consistently, you are producing negative hormones in your body that damages your body and your system, right? And so this way our biological makeup is actually designed to help us be healthy. And crying and expressing your emotion is a key healthy trait,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's the first thing. Second thing I want to say is that we also need to begin to highlight role models. So, for example, the way I broke out of such, all right. So, for example, me and my wife, we can have situations where she's crying, right? And I'm just sitting there crying with her. I don't know what's wrong with her, for example, but I just want to make her understand that your emotions right now are valid, and I'm here with you, right? I
Yeah.
want to be with you in this difficult situation. And
Wow.
to flip the switch, she does the same thing to me. But I didn't get here until I began to listen to people who have struggled like me and who are broken out to the other side. So if there's any platform I'm going to recommend to any guy, the second comment says it's a platform called Liberation Audio. It's a podcast. It's a 3-season podcast about two guys in the US who sat down and began to talk about how to break through stereotypes with men.
Mm-hmm.
And they went from different topics. And that liberated me because I saw men who were going through things I was going through, but had a
Mm-hmm.
different way of coping with it.
Yeah.
Right. And right there, I saw Justin speak to his friend, and they could cry and they could encourage each other, and it was fun. And I saw that this is actually okay, right? So when we begin to see people like us publicly who already overcome such struggle, publicly speak about it, people out there begin to see themselves in those persons and feel like, yeah, it's okay for me to
Yeah.
express myself. But I think the challenge is that we want people to do things differently, but we don't even have people out there who look like them. And so most people actually are afraid to express themselves those ways because they don't want to be called sissy or weakly and all those kind of things. And so if there are people who are listening, who are going to listen to me or going to hear these things and who have overcome these kind of things, I think they can help by also telling their own stories, right? Because
Yeah.
that is how change really happens. That when you can see yourself in someone else's scenarios, more than science, more than some psychological stuff you read there, when you can see your story in someone else's story, it encourages you to take the step they took,
Feel the
right?
empathy
And
with
so,
them. Yes. Yes.
exactly. So that is the second step we can take. The third step is that every single person has a platform and understands this thing, needs to use it properly. So we need to rewrite the way we watch. We need to rewrite our scripts, for example, in movies. It's because one of the major way of socializing anybody is through movies, through what you see in the media, right? And so
Right.
those are the kind of key places key
Yeah.
places where you need to start changing the narrative. So I've talked about the individual point of view, talking about we looking at role models. The third thing is that we need to really encourage or kind of make moves of people who have influential platforms being to change the script. Don't always make a guy, show a guy, feel like, make the guy look like the person who doesn't need love, or the guy is the one who shows us everything and doesn't cry, right? When people keep saying those things, they think that's how they should be, right? So that is very, for me, that is huge, because when boys become men, they were already made as men when they were boys. So they're only playing out the things they've learned as boys as men. And so it's even hard to change men when they're already men. So let's start when they're boys. Let that mom, let that dad tell the child it's okay to cry. Let that child see the parents in vulnerable positions. It's not every time you lock yourself in the room. You can let your child know that life can be difficult sometimes and it's okay to cry. Because when they see those things as children, then it's ingrained in them as habits. And so it's easier for them to express that as older folks. Like it's harder to bend people when they're grown up, right? So just to recap, first thing is individuals need to rethink how they see themselves. Just look at physical. I have tear ducts. I need to cry. Secondly, we need role models who will speak based on their stories. Then thirdly, we need people who have influential platforms to change the narrative of how they represent men, especially, African men.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have any personal experiences, or one or two, about maybe where you've had to really have yourself be yourself, like where you had to cry or let it all out, something like that?
Many times I do that. If I've done more of that in the last 2 years than ever in my life, I have very few friends, and those are the people that can experience that. So I might not be able to even recall any specific example right now, but I know very well that when I need, there's this particular day, I think I remember recently, at this particular day, I was trying to figure out something in my project, and it was so frustrating. And I told my wife, I want to shout. I'm like, all I need to do right now, I just feel I have so much pent up emotions, and just speaking English was not doing it. So I actually felt that she must have like, what is going on? Like, is this supposed to be doing this? And I just crawled up my bed and I put my pillow over my hair and I just screamed into my pillow for as long as I could. And I stopped. I'm like, I'm okay now. But it's
Feel better.
yes, that particular day, I actually felt like, I honestly felt like she saw me as someone was very weak. When I reflect about that day, sometimes I think like, I hope she doesn't think that me doing that makes me a weak man. But I've seen that even demonstrating that morning time made us see reasons to even be more vulnerable with me as
Around
herself,
you. True,
around me, because she knows that she'll be someone who would not, it's easier for people to cave in and shut down when they don't express their emotions. So she can trust me more with things, knowing that I have the emotional bandwidth to even experience difficult things without spilling on her. Do you understand? Men spill on their wives, men spill on their partners
aggression
or people
transfer.
that are closest to
Total
them,
aggression,
right?
yeah.
But being able to do that without involving her and being able to be myself, I think was something that really inspired her also.
All
That's
right.
one recent one I can remember. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So a few months ago at the Tribe Business Summit, you spoke about supporting opportunities in the marketplace from the designer point of view. That's how to support opportunities in the marketplace for those who are creatives. And you also mentioned that not every good idea is a money idea, right?
Yeah,
Can you please
absolutely.
more on that? Share more on that. And also for those who are creatives who want to go into making money through their art full time, do you know about them?
Yeah, so this is something that I think very helpful. So not every good idea is a money idea. So this point of view is from a system called value proposition design. So value proposition design is a system that you use to create value around a product or a service, right, for an end user or a customer target audience. I think many times people just carry their ideas, put a price to it, and that's able to buy. And it doesn't always work that way. You have to be very sure that what you're proposing to people to buy is what they actually need, right? And that process of verifying what they need is called value proposition design. So this is the simple way to run it. So you think about your customer, right? Profile the customer and understand what is highlight their pain, right? Without, limitations. Then try to highlight what they want to achieve as an individual or based on your product. That is their gain. Then rank your solution or whatever you're trying to present to people based on their top 3 pains and top 3 gains. That is where the money is, because people always buy or we're exchanging money for things they value, and was able to connect whatever it is you're offering to people with their pain points. So because you are a photographer, for example, doesn't mean that everyone will patronize you. What exactly makes you different from the other person, right? Because you do great portrait designs or you do great paintings doesn't mean that everyone will patronize your painting, right? So let me give you a classical example of this. There's a man in Nigeria who sells mirrors, right? And his mirrors goes for 500,000 naira minimum. Like, I'm not saying this to my future guys.
Through the mirror?
Exactly. But let me tell you the catch. This guy is not selling mirror. This guy is selling 2 things. I'll explain to you. In fact, he won't sell the mirror to you if you don't meet certain criteria. Because that mirror is shaped like Nigerian map, right? And so he's trying to sell legacy to people. So people who buy his mirror, like people like, I'll mention names you can familiar with, Feladuro Toye, people who are patriotic people of Nigeria, right? Big names, people who would die for Nigeria anywhere, anytime. And so that man is not selling the mirror, he's selling patriotism and he's selling legacy, right? And so there are certain people who that's where appeal to. If he carries that mirror to a general market and say, oh, my mirror is shaped like Nigeria, 500K, that guy is a no one will buy from him because he has failed to take his good idea and match it with who needs the idea. You get it? So that's what I mean by not every good idea is a money idea. You can actually have a good idea, but you are missing the point. You're not reaching out to people who consider that thing you're trying to sell a pain point. And so that's what I mean. But how do you now go from good idea to money idea? It's very simple. Always sell to people's pain. Always sell to people's pain. Even if it's a fun thing you're doing, maybe you do skits or you do videos. The idea is that you have to be sure that you're connecting your value to what someone really needs. And I think many creatives fail to realize that they just focus on how creative they are, and they fail to tap into understand the business of their creativity. So there is the design of business, and there's the business of design. So you have to learn the business of your creativity, right? And that will make you, that will lead you to really understanding people. Once you can understand people, once you can understand how they think, once you can understand what they need, then you can connect your good idea to their pain point, and now money can come in. So this is just a summary about not every good idea is a money idea.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. So you travel a lot, right? So do you feel like creatives in developed countries have an advantage over those who are in countries like Nigeria, who are still developing and everything else in between? What do you think?
On the surface, yes, you might look at it and say, oh, got this advantage. For example, during my time, for example, in the UK for 18 months, there was no power outage for once. Like, there was no single time I saw the light go off, right? Even if I do not have Wi-Fi, which I have, I could go to the nearest cafeteria or somewhere, right? Or even the bus stop and do something because there's Wi-Fi at major hotspots, right?
Wow.
Or even in the bus I'm traveling with has Wi-Fi, or the train I'm traveling with has Wi-Fi. Like, Wi-Fi is just like everywhere. right? I'm using these two examples because are things I know and have creativity, especially in developed countries, need to thrive, right? You need good internet, you need good power supply. So on the surface, while you are figuring out where to get fuel from, how to buy data, you're that creative who is in another part of the country, is having time to express himself, try new things, you get. So even if you want to apply, let me give you an example. If you want to apply for a grant, for example, and you finish application, right? And maybe you have 5 minutes to deadline to submit. While you're here struggling with your internet to upload, this guy submitted his own stuff like 6 seconds ago.
Ahead of you.
Those little time labs that seem insignificant can actually make a difference between someone get a job here and someone get a job there.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So on the surface, all these infrastructure issues can seem like a disadvantage. But in design, we always see problems not as stumbling blocks, but as constraints. And so what constraints represent to you is becoming a factor in creating something that will help people. So if I want to design the experience of an airport, there can be constraints of time, space, and all of those things, for example. But when I look at the constraints, that is where my ideas and my solution comes from. And so instead of seeing these things as a disadvantage, your constraint become an advantage. Remember my story. I had a Nokia C1. I didn't have an internet, right? But that's become a huge part of my story today. Like that story was what got my first fellowship funded by the Obama initiative, right? Because they saw what I could do with that little thing to create that amount of impact. And so I got my first fellowship. I went for this Young African Leaders Initiative. We're 100 in West Africa. We were paid for 5 weeks. We trained on leadership and many things. I met people all over the world. And that changed my life at that time, right? But if I'd seen what I was going through as a disadvantage, I wouldn't have made a move. And the story of today would have not been existent. So while I want to sit,
while
I want to sit here and capitalize on challenges, I will want creators to see challenges as an opportunity to create something new, to invent them stories, to have a story that's unique to them, right? This is something particularly very passionate to me because I can tell you that no matter the challenges we're going through, we can always create something out of it. On the surface, I would say infrastructural-wise, people in the Western world, developed countries have an advantage. But based on story, resilience, and what you can make out of your life, that challenge is actually inspiring. So when that designer who is in, for example, Scotland, who has all the resources, is pitching a product, and you are pitching your product, you have a story they don't have. That makes your products more powerful because you have story. How many people if you see most of the grants and most of the fundings going, it comes from this part of the world. It's coming here because people are seeing that people are resilient here and doing something incredible with the resources they have, right? And so they see an opportunity to reinvest in such people because people invest in people and not in things. They want to see what you can do with their money, and what you can do with their money can be reflected in how you've lived your life or created something reasonable with when you didn't have that money. Do you understand me? Or those infrastructure. So on the surface, yes, there are those disadvantages we have, internet, power, many things. But the next level is to take those things, channel them, and use them to create something remarkable.
Wow, that's a very interesting point of view. I think I really, really agree with you on that because the story is very important to when people are telling their whole success, profile and everything. Yeah, very important. So, I mean, you have been an inspiring mentor to a lot of people, an educator, a trainer in the creative industry and beyond. Can you please share any quick tips on how young creatives can maximize the digital media as a tool to accessing mentorship for their creative journey?
There's no excuse. I literally, there's no excuse in this current time. Like YouTube is a school, social media is a school of its own. You can become a master at anything without anyone directly coaching you, right? I believe so much in mentorship, and I think the first way any young person can start off is stop trying to get their attention. Start observing what they are doing. So many people want to get into your DM, get you recognized. Oh, I was this person spoke with me. Beautiful. But more than that is what they are currently doing. There are a lot of clues in their current life, what you see online. So start by observation. Observe, consume their content. For example, there's someone I recently found out and she's just inspired. Her name is Paul. I think Paula Scher. She's a remarkable designer. She's been designing for 50 years. She designed brands like the Public in the US, the Public Library, Citibank, Microsoft, this new Microsoft Windows branding. She did it. Like,
Wow.
I've seen her work and I'm like, the thinking process is just fascinating. And I just sat down and started consuming all our YouTube interviews, every single thing, because that is how I can know more about her first, by learning the way she thinks, right? And so young people should always focus on getting the clues from existing people who they respect online, identify one or two persons. I'll tell you what to do. Identify the top 10 people in your field, for example, and don't limit to your national. Go to top persons in your country, in other major countries, itemize them, follow them on all social media platforms, make sure that they have your notifications, the notifications to their profile turned on so that whenever they push out a new piece of content, you get to know. Why? Yeah. Because this is how to learn, by following all the top designers in the world. I follow them on Twitter. All the top pro designers in the world, I follow them on Twitter because that is how I learn more from them. More than trying to get them to observe me, I'm focused more on observing them. So more what I see people do wrong is they're trying to get people to notice you. No, that's not the goal. Your goal is to observe them much enough that you're able to get what they are doing right and apply it to your own work. Later, they will notice you. So, for example, there's this set of people I follow a lot. Since I was a teenager, and in 2018, I was able to speak on the same platform with them. I'm going to keep the names. But what shocked me was when somebody was like, "Hey, Abraham, I know you. Great to meet you." I'm like, huh? I was shocked because in my mind, I didn't exist in their space, right? And now I have more chance tracking the conversion with them because what they've seen me do in the past, right? Yeah. My work spoke. And so when I get close contact with them, they will want to readily mentor me because they already see what I'm doing. So the point I'm making from this is that there's enough resources out there online, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Stop trying to get them to notice you and focus on observing what they are doing great.
To be you essentially, first of all.
Exactly. For yourself. The noticing you will happen. It will happen. Because when you're doing great stuff, people will notice you. So I would not, it's throwing the message in the DM and say, I want to catch up with you. I want to have coffee with you. If you can even give them incentive, you can exchange something in return, great. But more than that is observe as much as I can and try what they are doing. I think most of my learnings have been done by observation. If you are doing something in front of me, I'm not just looking at you. Like I've picked everything you're doing. Next time you call me, I'll do it. That's how I've grown. I think that's one way of learning people have undermined. Is you can actually learn a lot by observing things around you. Observe those people, the way they speak, the way they present themselves. That is who they are. What they're expressing is who they are. And it's who they are that brought their results, right? And so instead of trying to just get them to notice you, why not focus on how they're expressing themselves and pick the clues and see what will work for you. Exactly.
Wow, thank you so much, Abraham. That's wonderful. So you're a very busy man and you're a married man too. So so can you share tips on how you balance your work time, your rest time, and family time?
The truth is that it's absolutely almost difficult for creatives to create that balance. You can be working 24/7 nonstop, but everything works with work when you create systems. I have work time, I have rest time. Prior to my trip out for my master's and I was traveling in 2019, I didn't have rest time and work time. Everything was so overlapping, right? I could wake up in the middle of the night, continue working, sleeping up from my laptop, waking up where I start off from where I stopped. And I was constantly experiencing burnout, like constantly. But I saw something in school. So every time, I'm sure, I believe that people in developed countries respect people's weekends more than Nigeria, for example. So 5 p.m., no meals. So in school, 5 p.m.s, no meals were responded to. Once it's 5 p.m., your email will be responded by Monday. right? No matter how urgent that message is, no professor, no technical director, nobody is going to respond to you until Monday. The only emergency message I'm going to respond to is health issues, probably ambulance or something that's life threatening, right? And I saw
Wow.
that it was working. Nobody died weekend. Nothing. And I actually think they're actually more productive than us who want to work around the clock. And I
Okay.
saw how respecting people's time and space can actually help them produce more.
Yeah.
So I saw that space I had to rest, chill in the park, be with my friends, play games, have potlucks with my friends, dance, go to the beach. I was more productive because I had time to recharge. And so I realized that if you don't create the system will ruin you. And so since then, I made sure that every weekend, I don't do any work. That's me. Weekends, no work. And if I'm going to work, I'm working on my own project. Maybe I want to write, I want to journal, I want to brainstorm on new ideas, right? I want to spend time with my family and all of those things. So I decide to not work. And I tell my clients, 5 p.m. is the time, between 9 and 5 p.m. is support system. Once at 5 p.m., you're not going to get any mail from me. And I'm not going to work during the weekends. If you're okay with that, if you're not okay with that, I set those boundaries with people so they know what was obtainable. I don't want to be 50, 60 and looking like I'm 100 or so. I need to make sure I take care of myself also. And so I need those space to recharge. And that's very important. If you're creative out there, create boundaries. Know what works for you. Some people work best at night, right? So if you work best at night, all the same, work at night, sleep during the day. The most important thing is that you are productive, right?
Yeah, resting
So
and productive, yeah.
working from home, remote has changed. Technology have changed a lot of things. You don't have to work from morning to evening during the day to be creative, to be productive. Some persons work all night, sleep all day. The most important thing is that you're meeting up with what you want to achieve, right? So what system works for you is what works for you. But make sure that in that system, you have boundaries for rest time and respect it. Because if you don't respect your own time, people won't respect your time. What most people fail to realize that how they treat themselves, that people will treat them. So if you don't even respect your own rest time, anybody can trample into your time. Anybody can give you work at any point in time and get away with it. So it starts from respecting yourself, knowing that you're valuable enough to need time to rest, need time to reconnect with yourself. If you have that mindset for yourself, you won't find it difficult to let people know when you need to be away from work. So the answer to that is create system. Find what works for you and keep to it. The more integrity you can demonstrate to yourself, the more you can tell people no. Most people don't know how to tell people no because they can't tell themselves no. They don't know when to stop working. And that's a
True.
major issue. There's
And it gets to burn
rising,
out,
there's
yeah.
rising cases of mental health issues, suicide, because people are not respecting the way their body works. Your body needs time to rest. And so this is based on my experience, what I would suggest to anybody, respect yourself enough to get the adequate rest you need. Once you do that very well, you'll be confident to let people know when you will be available and when you'll not be available. Work-life balance, it's not going to be always 50-50, right? Sometimes you have more workload, and that is the truth. But you know when to have less workload. You know when to block out 1 week to do nothing, and you're not feeling guilty. I can do that now. Prior, I'm like, what am I doing in my life? Have I lost my sense of purpose? What is going on? I need to. But now I can block out 2 weeks without doing anything. If I can, before I could not stay away from social media, but now I can be without my phone for a day and I'm not feeling like I've missed anything because I've begun to train myself to respect my own health and not trying to be everywhere, right? And that is how I create better. That's how I'm more productive because I respect myself enough to create time to reconnect with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Very wonderful insights. So, this is a very cliche question. I want to ask cliche question. It's cliche because it's what people ask most times. So, what does success mean to you? Success. What does it mean to you?
Everyone has different definition, but this is my perspective. Success is not a destination; it's a journey, right? People are waiting to get somewhere to say I'm successful. but they fail to realize that the way you deal with every day of your life, every moment, every week, every task, every opportunity you have, are the droplets that make up the sea of success, right? So it's a journey. That's the first thing. Second thing is that I'm talking based on principle now. What this means to people is different, but in principle, that's the first. Second thing I realized is that I believe success comes from expressing your deep and innate self to the world in the most valuable way that brings fulfillment to you. I will get that. Success comes from expressing your core, deep, and most valuable self to the world, right? In a way that brings fulfillment to you, right? And so, what it originally means that success comes from expression and not acquisition. So, people want to acquire status, milestones, accolades, the new best cars. You know, they want to have all these external things to define and validate who they are. And they fail to realize that is the other way. You have to flip the switch. Your expression of who you are, it's where your success and your fulfillment will come from. That is why they called fulfillment. So you get full by filling others up. You get full by filling others up. It sounds counterproductive, sounds like ironic that by pouring myself out, it feels like by pouring myself out, I'm going to be empty. But actually, what happens is that the more you pour yourself out on people, you are seeing more of yourself on people. And that is what success is about. Legacy. It's about replicating yourself in people and showing that all the things that I believe God has put in you is used to serve people around you. And so when you wake up in the morning, you can see that A, B, C, D, E, F, James, Tyler are doing great in life because I was able to be part of their journey. In whatever that might mean to you, whether it's music, it's art, it's photography, whatever it might mean to you, is that it goes beyond what you want for yourself and more about what you are pouring to people. So success comes from expression and not acquisition by other people. That's why it's called fulfillment.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Abraham. So if you could make collabo with a digital creator and that artist, right? What art would it be and who would that be?
I have two crazy ideas. Well, the other one might be crazy to many people, but if I'm going to create anything to anybody right now, I've been loving Kanye West so recently that I want to create something with him. I just feel like even though people feel like it's crazy, I have all this thought about him. Actually think he's a genius. I love, regardless of your views about life or what you think you represent. I love when someone can stand for themselves. I'm like, this is what I believe, and you don't allow him to bully you out of it. Do you understand me? And I think that's one. Second, I actually think he's a genius. He has so much ideas. I think sometimes he has so much idea, he doesn't even know how to express himself. So, and you can see from his success, from his music to his fashion pieces and so other things he's doing with Donda Academy. I think he's actually a phenomenal guy, and it's someone that I would definitely want to work with. The other person was on an interview last year. Her name is Bolanle Bamwo. She's a designer also, but she focuses on brand identities, and she runs a platform called Jeniza School of Design. Yeah, she trains women in design, and she runs a platform called Female Design Movement. So she's building this design movement of designers in Nigeria and Africa, and I think she does phenomenal work. I just like simplicity in her work, and if I'm going to do anything with her, most likely it will be a brand-based project. Brand, because I'm really interested a lot in brands recently, and so I just find it's really nice, exciting, creating unique identities for brands, and helping them express their vision in great visuals. So that would be something. If it's with Kanye, I would probably do something around the fashion piece, maybe a shoe, something that's an apparel, something
Easy.
that just because I probably make shoes for people on space or something.
Oh wow, space shoes. Right.
Yeah, so those are my two picks for now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So briefly, tell us something about yourself we don't know.
This is a blank question that I absolutely have no answer for because I don't even know where the pick. Probably if you have something in mind, you're interested in knowing, I'm an open book, but that kind of question, I don't even know where to start from.
Oh,
It's probably
really?
one. Each of you can probably tell me something you want to know, and I just say it. I don't know, or
Okay.
because
So if you were not, if you um wouldn't have been a digital creator, what would you have rather been? Maybe in a different universe or
mm,
your childhood dreams.
psychologist.
Psychologist.
Yeah,
Okay, why
I,
psychologist?
I just someone asked me one time, why do I post less of my work and talk more about my process? And I said, because you won't learn anything from me from my work. You only learn from me from my process. And so I'm more fascinated in how people work than what they produce. Do you
Mm.
understand? And so
Yeah,
I even look at my books here. I have books from different fields, different topics,
yeah.
different walks of life, controversial conversation, because I just really love to learn about how people's mind works. It's just something that I'm fascinated about. So yeah.
All right. So we have to quickly run through this. So let's go a bit poetic. If poetry is a rainbow and you have a choice of one color in the palette, what color would that be and why?
It's very obvious. You see my clothes online, it's blue. You see my website, it's blue. You
Oh,
see my
blue,
brand
two of
logos,
us.
blue.
Okay. That makes two of us then.
It's blue all
I
the
like
way.
sky blue
I
because the
didn't
sky is
even
blue.
know. I didn't know I love blue until someone told me one day, "Hey, dude, have you seen all your brand logos? They're all blue." I'm like, "Oh my god, it's true." I like subconsciously, I didn't realize that everything I'm designing is
Yeah.
blue. Until someone pointed it out that all your dresses are blue. If your wedding dress was
Mhm.
blue, like, dude. So I just that's just it. Yeah.
All right. So summary question right here, and because you're running off now. What does
Yeah.
art mean to you?
We probably have we've talked about this already. It's
Yeah.
basically an expression. It's art is just you expressing you. Like it's nothing less than that. And that's why even if two persons are doing the same thing, they never have the
Mm.
same result, because what makes your heart is that you're infusing your own innate values and your own life into it. And so someone can paint a chicken, and you can paint a chicken, and people like, oh, your chicken is so inspiring. So like, oh, your chicken looks so
Mm.
fiery. Why? Because the chicken is just representing who they are. And so heart is
Mm.
just really an expression of you as a person. And that's why even if someone steal your work and sell it, they can never steal your heart, because they can't put themselves into it.
True, true. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Abraham. It's been a wonderful time with you.